say welcome to my kitchen, and I have a few things that I'm going to show you how to make today. And let's see, Michael, are you going to monitor a little bit for me, or should I'm going to try the chat. It's not really
quick. Yeah. Chia, are you on long enough to do that?
Yes, sure.
Okay, if you're staying on, just please help monitor if people have questions for her.
Okay.
And unmute them for her, because she's going to have her hands all in her gift. Okay.
That would be great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you, Shan.
No problem.
All right. Let's see here. So the first thing, I always like to start with a beverage, and I don't know how many of you know about Tocino. It's a chicory tea. Some people use it as a coffee substitute, but what's lovely about this, it's acid free, so coffee is pretty acidic to the system, even though it tastes yummy. And for people who are trying to get off of coffee, sometimes doing this 50-50 is lovely. Or if you want something that's hearty like that at night and you don't want the caffeine, you can make a cup of this. It's high in potassium, and it actually has prebiotic in it. So I have it comes in different flavors too. And if you are needing absolutely to be gluten-free, most people who need to be gluten-free can handle the regular, but they have this dandelion caramel nut. It's really yummy. So I'm making the regular today, and I poured 2 tablespoons. I'm gonna put it in my French press. Make sure you can see what I'm doing. And you pour 2 to 3 cups of water in, and I'm gonna let that steep for a little bit. And we'll come back and try it shortly, but I'm going to put this on. So by the end of our time together, we will have a lovely beverage, and I wish I could invite you right into my kitchen. All right, so today, okay, you're gonna laugh. These are my bananas, and I'm sure you've probably all had a banana like this, and you might think, oh, I can't even use that, but you can. And bananas like this. Usually these are still really good for a smoothie, but today I decided to show you how to make a gluten-free banana muffin. And this is how they turn out. And when my experience with gluten-free flours is that when you make a smaller muffin, they bake and they're not gooey in the center. So let me just show you. I have this 24 muffin pan of mini muffins, and the 3 that are missing are on the plate. And they get really nice and plump and lovely, and they're one of my boys' favorite things, and my dad's too. And I'm actually going to take those over to his house. He had to have 2 teeth pulled, which is kind of a bummer. But let me just show you this. So these bananas, even though it's pretty ripe, it's super sweet. And I just kind of pop that in there. And if you guys compost, I always compost. I keep mine under the sink. And you mash up 3 bananas. And if you didn't have 3 bananas, you could use maybe a half a cup of applesauce too. So something that's moist, a fruit that's moist. Recipes, what I have found when I'm working with people and clients, I'm gonna mush these, that aren't used to being in the kitchen, they kind of are a little bit nervous about substituting, but as long as you have something that's consistent in the moisture factor and it's a fruit, you're gonna be fine. So 3 cups of bananas, and then I've been using monk fruit, so it doesn't have quite the high glycemic index. And I'm going to take a half a cup of monk fruit. You can use sugar. I would not recommend using honey or maple syrup for this recipe. It would just be a little bit too moist. So I'm going to stir that in. And then last week I showed you chia pudding. I don't know how many people actually tried it, but you can use chia as an egg substitute. So this is 1 tablespoon of chia. And just about an hour ago, I put 1 tablespoon of chia in here with 3 tablespoons of water upside down. And look at how much that hydrated. So you can use chia as a substitute for an egg. And I just wanted to show you this. So I cracked 1 egg in a container, And then this is the chia substitute again. 1 tablespoon of chia with 3 tablespoons of water, and you can see that they're equivalent. For today, am going to add the chia substitute for an egg. And what's lovely when you use chia, it gets thick and it acts as a binder like the egg would act as a binder. The next thing, in baking, instead of using dairy, you can use butter if you want to. I'm just showing you how to use like a dairy-free, gluten-free if you have those kinds of sensitivities. Is a 1/3 cup of, I use avocado oil. I love avocado oil. It's really nice in salad dressings as well if you don't want the flavor of olive oil. Sometimes it can have a bitter taste, and when I'm going to show you how to make a dressing today too. And it can be very overpowering. So if you want the flavors of whatever else is in there, I like avocado oil. So right now we have, I'm just going to review, I have 3 ripe bananas. I have a 1/2 cup of sweetener. In this case I used monk fruit, but you can use sugar, that's fine. I have, you can put an egg or egg replacement. In this case I used chia seeds, which was 1 tablespoon of chia with 3 tablespoons of water, and I let it sit for about 1/2 hour. And next, I wanted to show you too with the almond milk. A lot of people say, what do I do with that fiber? So I am going to use the fiber. I either keep this in the refrigerator, or if I'm not going to do anything with it for a while, I'll put it in my freezer. And if you think you'll never do anything with it, you can compost it, but it's really too good, I think, to compost. So I'm going to take a 1/2 cup about, so if I kind of push that down, 1/2 cup. Love my measurement style. And I'm going to put that, I'm going to beat that in with the bananas, so it's kind of moist. So I don't consider the almond fiber a dry product. So we have the almond pulp. Now, if you don't have almond pulp, it is perfectly fine to use almond flour. So as I go through these recipes, I'm just kind of giving you some options. Almond pulp, almond flour, either one works. And if you don't have either of those, you can just use straight up gluten-free flour. But I find that if I do that, the recipes get a little bit sticky. This is gluten-free flour. You can use regular flour too. What I love about this particular brand, it's called Namaste. I like the name. But Namaste flour is the flour that I found that is pretty equal to wheat flour. So you can sub it 1-to-1. And in this case, now, my grandma was a baker and she was pretty flexible in the kitchen. And typically people would take the dry goods and then mix them into the wet. But I am saving a step, and I'm going to show you what I do. So I put a cup of the Namaste flour. I'm just going to tap that. So that's 1 cup. I'm going to plop it in. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the leavening on top. And the leavening is 1 teaspoon of salt. And you might think that's really too much, but it's not. So 1 teaspoon of salt. I use this pink salt. You can use any salt. I just would not recommend Morton salt because Morton salt is bleached 5 times, and that's what makes you puffy. If you think salt makes you puffy, but this salt won't do it. Sea salt won't do that to you. And then I take a teaspoon of baking soda. So you can see I do love jars. I take my stuff and I put it in jars when I get home. And I just put that over there. So now on the top here, look at another spoon, and I just kind of lightly stir the salt and the baking soda right into the flour so I don't have to dirty up one more dish. And then I'm stirring the flour into the wet mixture. And it's about as simple as that. Pretty simple recipe. And then I'll do these 3 so you can see what I do. So this scoop is 1/8 of a cup. And you don't have to have a scoop. You could just put a couple tablespoons of batter in. But this is how it looks pre-done. So you can see the pre and the post. And this mixture will make 2 dozen little mini muffins. So this is how they are before they're baked, and this is how they are after they're baked. I'm gonna put that over here, and they're really lovely. They're so lovely, these little muffins. And if I break one, so I baked them at 350 for about 17 minutes, and it depends on where you live, what the altitude is. So the timing might be a little might vary, but as long as, I'm gonna bring this back, as long as the muffins slightly pull away from the pan, then you know that they're baked through. Some people have like a little stick that they put in. I don't do that. But if we break these in half, they're super moist and they're really good. These are a hit for anybody, and they would have no clue that there's not wheat flour in here. Some flours are not yummy. I don't recommend using like chickpea flour or anything like that. It has a bitterness when it comes to baking. So I'm not going to bake those, but I showed you how to make them and the finished product. I am going to use this scoop again, so I need to rinse it off. And you can get these scoops in the baking section of almost any store. All right. So today we have a baking theme, and I am going to show you how to make salad dressing at the end. Next, we just put some of this away because we're not using Chia anymore, or namaste flour. I am going to show you how to make a vegan chocolate chip cookie. So, when I saw this recipe, and I kind of tweak recipes, and this is my version, but I thought, I don't think that's going to taste very good. But when I made it, it's really good. My boys are 23 and almost 26, and my 23-year-old popped over, and they just came out of the oven. He's like, Mom, you write this recipe down. So I thought that was pretty cute that he approved, because throughout his life I've been experimenting on him with all sorts of things, and he definitely lets me know what's a winner. So this is 2 cups of almond flour. I would not recommend using almond pulp in this recipe, but use almond flour. And then I have a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of baking soda, and I'm just going to kind of mix those together. A little bit here. And then the other key ingredient, so this is going to be my mixing bowl. The other 3 ingredients I pre-measured. I have a 1/3 cup of maple syrup, a 1/3 cup of nut butter. In this case, I used an organic peanut butter. I've made these with almond nut butter and with sunflower nut butter. They're all really good. So use any nut butter you have. I put 1/3 cup of nut butter, 1/3 cup of maple syrup, and a 1/3 cup of almond milk. And I used homemade almond milk. You don't have to use a nut milk. You can use regular milk, but just some kind of liquid. I have not tried this recipe with water, but I think there's a little bit of some substance in a milk. So I'm just going to pour that in. It's really simple. And I also have a teaspoon of vanilla in here. Just mix. I'll come a little closer. The batter with this is pretty moist, but they bake really well. I'm going to show you the finished product in a minute. So there you have the batter, and then I put a 1/4 cup of chocolate, or not 1/4, 3/4 cup of chocolate chips. And you can put more. That's what I do. Oh, I didn't get them all out. We better get them all out. And the mini chocolate chips are really nice for this too. And if you have a dairy sensitivity, there are vegan chocolate chips. Otherwise, just use regular. I like dark chocolate, so these are dark chocolate chips. And mix it a little bit more. Sometimes I keep the batter in the fridge, and I'll just make a few at a time in my toaster oven, which is also like a little oven. Today I made them in the regular oven because I was making the muffins. So this batch makes 20 cookies. And when they're finished, they're nice and crispy on the outside, and then when I break them in half, they're gooey on the inside. And they if you make these, let me know what you think. But they are quite lovely as a alternative to your traditional cookie. They have almonds, which are high in calcium. The avocado oil is heart healthy. The pink salt does not make you retain fluid. And the chia seed, no, there's no chia seed in here. Chia seed in the other one is also heart healthy. So this is what I do. I use the same scoop. I don't press these down at all. I keep them just like that. Oh, and I'm using parchment paper. Regular cookie sheet I didn't, but with my little toaster oven baker, I put parchment on or it would stick to the sheet. So they look like that when they're raw dough. I'm not going to bake them right now, but I'll stick them in there for later. And then when they come out again, they just expand just a little bit, and they're lovely. They usually disappear. So those are my 2 baking pieces today, and we're going to test this Ticino tea. And I'm going to press that down, and you can see as I pour it, it's a rich, looks like coffee, but it's not. It smells like coffee. Doesn't have the caffeine, and I like to do like half Ticino. And then I have a little bit of nut milk left. And so now we have maybe 1/3 nut milk and 2/3 Ticino. And that's a lovely caffeine-free, hearty, kind of coffee-like, but not. I mean, if you're expecting it to taste like coffee, you would be very disappointed, but we're going to do a little taste. And it is really nice. This is one of my favorite things. I had a cup of this last night before I went to bed. Okay, so I'm gonna move this out of the way. And then I was gonna make this in a glass jar. Last recipe of the day is, I'm gonna just scooch all this down. And I'm gonna show you how to make really nice, light summer salad dressing. And I'm gonna blend it. You can use a blender, you don't have to blend it. I didn't pre-test this jar, but that's gonna work. It's gonna work real well. So this recipe, and I will type these in the chat when I'm finished, is, it might seem like a lot, but don't worry, it's gonna be yummy. There's a cup of avocado oil. And then lemon juice. I have a 1/3 cup of lemon juice, and you can either use lemon juice that's already been squeezed, or you can, I'm gonna show you 2 ways to get the lemon out. Typically, this is what I do. I just put a fork in the lemon and I rotate. I find this extremely efficient. And the peel, if you have a garbage disposal, it's really nice for helping your drains. Or you can put this in a cup of water. So I'm gonna rinse my hands. And the other way, so this is hilarious. When I got this gadget, one of my girlfriends gave it to me. Intuitively, you would put the lemon in like this. No, you put it in upside down. So if you have one of these, you probably know how to use it. And I'm like, it's not really getting the juice out. But when you put the lemon in, again, cut side down, and you press, it's really, look at all that juice. It just comes right out. So that's the way to properly use one of these. It's kind of counterintuitive. I had to learn the hard way. I kind of laughed at myself when I figured that piece out. So I'm gonna use real lemon, fresh lemon, not real, that's real lemon too. Let me get the seeds out. You don't want the seeds. Lemon seeds are bitter, so it's better to get them out. And then it's a 1/3 cup, and I don't quite have a 1/3 cup of juice from that lemon, so I'm going to top it off with this. I do have another lemon in my refrigerator, but for time's sake, we're just gonna do this. So right now, I have 1 cup of avocado oil. I have 1/3 cup of lemon juice. I am going to put in 2 tablespoons of red wine vinegar. So here's 1 and 2. And then on my recipe that I wrote down, I put 6 shakes of salt. So what's 6 shakes of salt? I don't know, but we're gonna do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's what I wrote down. And this had, I'm gonna look, let me hang on a second, because when I did this, I'm like, I think I put maple syrup in there and I didn't write it down to remind me. I had 2 tablespoons of honey, but for this case, I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. So a lemon dressing in the summer is really nice with a hint of sweet. Honey or maple syrup will do it, either one. Or you could use sugar, or you could use some monk fruit again. No problem. And if you have fresh basil, mine is still little because I'm in Wisconsin. It's starting to grow in my garden. If you don't have a garden, just use basil if you have it in your cupboard. This is basil that I dried from last year, and I've used most of it, so this jar was full. I've used that throughout the winter, and it smells beautiful. If you grow and can dry your own basil, it's just the flavor profile of garden basil versus some dried basil that's been in a jar for a long time is quite different. And I said 2 pinches, so that's 1 pinch, and this is the other pinch, and it's probably close to 3 tablespoons. Then I'm going to put my immersion blender in here. You can blend it in a regular blender or just stir it. But doing it this way emulsifies it in a way that just shaking it up would not. And I always taste my dressings and then I adjust it. And this is so delightful. So you can top this any salad greens. You could slice up a pear. You can slice up some oranges or an apple and put some fresh nuts. Maybe if you can eat nuts, I would put some pecans or walnuts on here. If you have a pomegranate handy, that would be beautiful as well. And if you're a cheese eater, something a little bit salty, you could put feta or goat cheese or gorgonzola on the top, and it will make a fabulous salad. So this is one of my favorite summertime salad dressings, and it keeps in the refrigerator for as long as you have it to use. All right, so that's the end of my demo today, and I'd like to know if there are questions. And for some reason, I'm going here. If I
Lauren,
can.
you're unmuted. Did you unmute me? I did.
All right.
Yeah. Terry, I've tried this. It upsets my stomach, so I'm wondering if that's ever happened.
What upsets your stomach?
The Ticino, the herbal coffee.
Oh, okay. I have not really come across a different substitute for that, but are you trying to get off coffee?
Yes, that would be great if I could.
So,
I'm planning to.
okay. So the thing about coffee, period, is that every pound of coffee has a pound of pesticides on it. So if you're going to drink coffee, definitely do organic coffee. And Newman has a decaffeinated organic brand. I don't know how much caffeine is in there, but you might want to start with that and see. At least it's organic and it's decaffeinated. If I find something, I'll let Judy know that I've been in contact with her via email. I can let her know if I find a different source. Does that sound good?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah,
I was
sure.
just curious.
Yeah, and you know, maybe are you gluten intolerant?
I don't think so.
Okay, because there are two styles. So one of my and I should have said in the beginning, I have a holistic wellness practice, and I help clients like with questions like that. My clients that are gluten intolerant can do this one, but they can't do the regular because of the grains that are in there. So you might want to give that a gander. See if you can handle the gluten-free Ticino. That might help. Okay, great. Yeah. So is there anybody else?
Sorry, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of rasa?
Tell me what rasa is. It's familiar, but I don't have it in my kitchen.
At the one yoga studio I would go to, they sold it as a coffee substitute and would even suggest like starting with half of that and then half of coffee. I think it was called rasa. I may be getting it wrong. That's why I was asking.
Do you remember what the ingredients are by chance?
Don't, but I believe it had adaptogens in it, maybe.
So that's a really nice thing too. So oftentimes, like for adaptogens, you know, you can use, this is maca, and I have a fermented mushroom blend that I use. And so these are, I put this stuff in almost like anything. If I'm doing a smoothie, sometimes I'll add it to like the Ticino at night or in the morning. But adaptogens are really important, and they help our adrenal glands, right, and our endocrine system in general kind of, if they're flipped upside down, get back in order. That's a really, thank you for mentioning that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate your insights because I was curious about it and I just never had heard of it before. But actually, when you were talking about this, I thought maybe it was the rasa that they were talking about.
The Ticino is not rasa, but there are a lot of beautiful adaptogens that you can add if you don't have something like that. Do you know how to spell it at all? Do you know how?
It was RASA.
Oh, okay. I'll have to look that up and see what's in there.
It looked like it was in. I've seen it in. It looked like it was in coffee type packaging.
Yeah.
As well.
There are a lot of like coffee packagings now that have like a combination of adaptogenic mushrooms in them, including like reishi and lion's mane and cordyceps. Another one that's really, and I blend this too. This is chaga. This is chaga mushroom. And that comes from the birch tree. It's and really, you know, where you get your chaga matters. Some of it is just hacked off the tree, not mindfully. This is beautifully harvested with consciousness. And I think just given the group, you know, we all want to have consciousness in our food. Yeah.
Oh, I would love if you would do a whole lesson for us on adaptogens one day, if you could, and or mushrooms or whatever, because I am fascinated on the bunch of research that's been emerging.
Sure. So I have an entire cupboard right here of alchemy. You know, things that I put in, like I have pomegranate powder, and I have, this is a green tea. I use this in everything. This is a blue-green algae. But I have two shelves of that stuff, so that would be fun. Sure. Mm-hmm.
Right, guys, thank you so much.
And thank you for having me. This is just delightful to be able to be part of your group. And have a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you.
All right, you too.
Yeah.
And I don't remember, Kari, if you joined us. Every so often we have a meeting for all the hosts. And I don't remember if you were there in the last one, but just keep it in mind so that you can join us.
Yes, I think it's at, I'll check the time. If it's at 4 o'clock this Sunday, which is Central Time. Last week I was out of town, and I'll try to make it. Thank you.
That's okay.
I will.
Yeah, we won't have one this week, but we had one last week. But
Okay.
even if we do have one, when you can't make it, let Judy know.
I did let her know last week that I couldn't make it.
Okay, that's all. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
Okay.
Well, we won't have one this week. It's only every 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh, okay. I'll get her like an update, and I think next week, per Sheehan's request, I will do some powders. I'll educate you on those things. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
All right. Everyone else, closing time. So takeaways from today, or questions or feedback, whatever you're looking for.